right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Patriot Underground. Today is November 10th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, to discover the truth beneath the surface. As always, I really do appreciate everybody out there taking the time to listen. And of course, it is a Monday night, which means only one thing. On Patriot Underground, it means Mondays with the great Mike King of realnewsandhistory.com, the man, the myth, the legend, as I call him. People like to refer to him as Professor King. He's got a lot of nicknames, but they're all rooted in deep admiration and love for this man. So, Mike, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Let's
I know you love it.
I wish it could be more legendary, but we're getting there.
Oh,
Rumble channel 20.6. I'm happy to report.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it seems like every week you go up another 1,000 subscribers or followers. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's great. We're gonna look at your Rumble page a little bit later in the show, as is our custom. But let me just kind of paint a picture of where we're going tonight. So it's going to be a typical format. We're going to talk about Mike's two most recent New York Times pieces, at least the last time I checked. The first one we're going to get into is entitled Putin's Russia is Banning Certain Books. That was published on November 7th. And then the second one is entitled Trump's G20 Boycott of Anti-White South Africa. And that was actually published just yesterday on November 9th. And in both pieces, Mike is going to infuse a very important history lesson into his presentation, and in so doing, exemplify what he does best. And that is, of course, connecting the dots between the events that are currently unfolding in this operation with the foundation that they were built upon. So hopefully it'll be another great show. Make sure you take a moment to smash that thumbs up button to help us boost up the show, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts on our discussion tonight. So before we go ahead and get started, let's just have a quick word from our sponsor, and then we are going to jump right in, folks. What's going on, everybody? This is Patriot Underground here with a very important message. Now, I just found out something absolutely wild about stem cells. And if you don't know, stem cells are like tiny repair crews that go out and fix things in your body that need to be fixed. And guess who has been ahead of the curve on this? None other than Joe Rogan. He's been talking about it for years. Check this out.
I had a full-length rotator cuff tear, and the UFC gave me a doctor in Los Angeles, and he looks at my MRI and goes, "You're going to need surgery." I go, 100%? He goes, "I don't know how you're using it now. It's a matter of time. You're going to need surgery, so it might be better to do it now." So I got it shot up with stem cells. And this was the early days of stem cells in America, where you could get away with more. That you got to go to Mexico now again. Tijuana, the Cellular Performance Institute, they fucking dose you. And 6 months later, I go and get an MRI. The rotator cuff tear is gone. And Dr. McGee looks at me and goes, "You know how fucking insane this is?"
But here's the crazy part. Most stem cell therapies are illegal in the U.S. Not because they're unsafe, not because they don't work, but because they work too well. And that threatens big pharma. If you could heal your knees, fix your back, or recover from surgery without pills, insurance, or endless doctor's visits, what happens to their profits? And that is why the FDA has blocked these treatments. And as a result, people are forced to go overseas just to get access to their own biology. And it's expensive, it's unregulated, and it's out of reach financially for most of us. Just one placenta stem cell injection can run you back $50,000. And honestly, I don't have that kind of cash on me. But here's what most people don't know. There is a natural way to support your own stem cell activity, and it comes from high flavanol cocoa. Studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees coming out of a beehive into your bloodstream. Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee actually backs this up. Check this out.
So, studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. If it's in your heart, they'll fix it. If it's in your liver, they'll fix it. If it's in your skin, they'll fix it.
Dark chocolate. But here's the thing. Flavanols are the good stuff found in cocoa beans, but they're usually destroyed during the chocolate making process. And that is where Black Forest Supplements comes in. They have created the first ever high flavanol cocoa powder packed with everything your body needs, and it's only 20 calories. I mix it with my coffee or with my protein shake, and it tastes absolutely amazing. This isn't regular cocoa. It is stem cell fuel. No sugar, only 20 calories, and you can mix it in your coffee or your protein shake. So if you feel slow, if you feel old, or just off, lazy stem cells might be why. But this, it flips the switch. Over 100% increase in stem cell circulation. And right now, Black Forest Supplements is having an amazing deal. A whopping buy one, get one free promo for 48 hours only. So check out the link in the description of the video or the pinned comment, and don't miss this. All right, so let's go ahead and bring up our presentation. We got a lot of stuff to get through tonight, and as always, I'm really excited about what I'm going to learn on this episode with Mike. So like I said, the first article we're going to be talking about is Putin's Russia is banning certain books. So Mike, why don't you just dive in and take it away?
Yes, indeed. Here's the headline: New York Times, bookstores on edge as Kremlin sets sights on policing books. And there's the subheadline: restrictions on publishers and sellers have grown more severe. Volumes are being pulled from shelves or redacted like secret documents, but bookstores remain important sources of community. Now, when you see a headline and subheadline like that, particularly the type of readers who worship the New York Times, the first impression will come to mind would be Putin the tyrant, right? Russia, repressive society, censoring ideas that they're afraid of.
And and it immediately conjures up those images of the Nazis burning the books, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, you can't help it. The mind goes right there. We've been conditioned. Mm-hmm. So there's your hook. But what's interesting is when you get in the article, elaborates on this, and again, this is why I refer to it as the New York Times. It's presented in a negative context, but once you get into it, it's kind of a bait and switch.
Yeah.
This is actually an honest article, and I think a lot of people, when they read it, will say to themselves, "Oh, it's not about politics or suppressing people who are free thinkers or anything like that."
Yep.
So let's see what this is about. What type of books are they banning in Russia?
I think I have a little bit of an idea.
So, and the article wastes very little time getting into it. It says, quote, in May, law enforcement officials arrested 3 staff members of Popcorn Books and Individuum, 2 progressive publishing houses, charging them with extremism for books about the LGBTQ movement. In July, a court fined Falanster, a popular bookstore in Moscow, and investigators have sifted through the shelves of others around the country. Podpilisye Izdanya was fined in May for selling books containing, quote, traces of propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations, Russian investigators said. So there's no attempt in the article itself to spin this into a type of repression like we used to get for so many years with the so-called Nazi book burnings. Mm-hmm. We were all raised on that, and until I became red-pilled on the subject, I always assumed they burned books that they felt threatened their political supremacy or ideas they didn't like. Terrible academic censorship. But no, and this article tells you right here, it's the LGBTQ stuff that they don't want publicly disseminating, in particular with the children. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, some libtards will read this and say, "Oh, that's horrible." But I have to believe a fair amount of readers would be bait and switched by something like this. They're expecting one thing, and then they realize that they're putting a cap on the LGBTQ, which I think most reasonable people, even some people you might consider left of center, these days think has gone too far.
You think even the libtards that are reading the New York Times, you think they're
a portion of them?
Yeah. Now,
maybe a third.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, because I don't know if you go into this in the article or not, but my understanding is that the LGBTQ, that back in, I think it predated the Q movement, that Russia passed a law that basically banned propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations, and specifically targeted toward minors. That was my understanding. Like, it may have been like 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And then it was only a couple of years ago that the Supreme Court in Russia actually labeled the LGBTQ movement as an extremist organization. And do you know about that?
Well, I mean, these incremental restrictions have been accumulating over the years.
Yeah.
The big parades are banned.
Yeah.
The exposing of this sort of propaganda towards children was banned. But now this goes a step further. These are bookstores.
Right.
This isn't for children. So they're really going for a deep
ratcheting it up. Yeah, they started up with getting rid of the stuff that's targeting kids, and now it's basically just across the board.
Now it's just get this LGBT garbage out of the public domain completely, because it's destructive and subversive. And and by now I would think people in Russia are acclimated to this sort of stuff, because this has been done gradually.
Yeah, right.
And maybe we're seeing the beginnings of this here, because one thing I noticed this past June, and I did a show about it, I think with Dave, is that this year's Pride Month was comparatively muted.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that too. Yeah,
like compared to years past.
The screenshots inside of Target. Yeah, you talked about your local Target and how different it was. Yeah.
Right.
It's been drastically diminished, and that's generally the pattern, right? They start out small. It's basically what the deep state did to us, but in reverse. How many times?
Exactly.
That principle, right? They start off small, they open up the door, and as time goes on, they get the people more and more acclimated to it, and then they ratchet up the banning. In this case, I mean, it's a form of censorship, I guess you could say, but it's a good one. There are good forms of censorship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're protecting public morality, public decency, public mental health,
right?
Especially with this tranny garbage. Right. But that's how they got away with it. Is they would hide under behind the facade of freedom of speech,
of course,
or whatever, academic freedom. But that's a trick. It's got nothing to do with it. This is, this is for the sake of public order. And this has always been a big agenda item of the cabal. It fits in with the degradation of humanity.
Yep.
Russia.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Russia's got a head start on this, because Putin's been on the scene for 25 years now.
Yeah, they're actually a lot farther ahead than we are. But I was just going to say, I continually marvel at it. Every week we talk about this in one form or another, how the White Hats are reversing the Trojan horse model of attack, I guess you could say, that the deep state inflicted on us. They're doing it gradually, but for all the right reasons. It's just so amazing to see how this manifests in basically every different theater of the war that we talk about. It's the same process. They open up the door. They kind of slide that Trojan horse in there. They're doing it, of course, with the media. How many times have we discussed that just in general, to use your famous term, that they've taken control of the illusion machine and, reversed it against all the propaganda and subversion. So, but this is big. This is really big. We can only hope that it's going to spread to the U.S. and fast. We need it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've literally...
It was heartening to see, and I noticed it right away, and then other people noticed it, and then I began reading about it. There was no doubt about it. This year's Pride Month was maybe 1/3 of the power of years before.
Yep.
So,
and at the same time, more and more people are turning to Christ and going back to church.
That's right.
These things, so you can see how that. And that's the way this stuff works, is the moral degradation. It just when you think it can't get any more sick, it does. I saw a video recently of a bunch of people who literally had gathered in a city park somewhere with masks on to make them look like dogs. And they were all walking around like dogs. It's really sick. I mean, the stuff that you're seeing now, you're hearing about in schools. Some of the schools have actually put litter boxes in the bathrooms for kids who identify as a cat.
Oh,
I mean, it's just, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like this sliding scale, this moral degradation.
Yeah.
It just, when you think there's no bottom, it
Yeah.
gets worse. So yeah, this is really important to rebuilding, you know, the fundamental moral foundation of our society. So
It sure is. Yep.
Yeah. So let's go with some history here.
Well, you know, it's ironic. They're always they never stop with the Putin to Hitler comparisons because of things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the irony is that it's actually a very good analogy, a very good comparison. But from my perspective, it's a compliment in a good way. You know. Yeah. But
well, Hitler still has that stigma attached to it, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're still a pretty long way away from being
able
to break ground on that one. But
yeah, very few people will see the irony in this that I see. Yeah, the proper irony.
Mm-hmm.
But it is because this was another one of the very first agenda items when Hitler and the National Socialist Workers' Party came to power, was cleaning up Germany, in particular Berlin, which was the world capital cesspool of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was done like instantly, right away. Shut down all these homosexual, pedosexual brothels and prostitution joints. I mean, the prostitution was just outrageous. Women, children.
Yeah.
Big pedophile influence, homosexual capital of the world, transgenderism. Yeah, this is all in the wake of World War I. The country was just demoralized.
Right after the Treaty of Versailles, everything just went downhill. But weren't they also doing? And I don't know if this is true, and that's why I'm asking you. But were they doing transgender type of surgeries back then?
You know, I've heard that. I've never really dug to the bottom of that to see if they had that kind of surgical capabilities now, because maybe they were. Wouldn't surprise me. Maybe perhaps they were doing something on the hormonal level, but it could very well be. But it's just I'm hesitant to repeat things I hear until I really look into it.
Yeah. No, I respect that, obviously I didn't want to state it as a fact. It's just something that I've heard floating around out there. But the reason that I mentioned that is, and I asked you that question because a lot of folks kind of have this this preconceived notion about LGBTQ, XYZ, whatever, you know, they always adding more letters to it. And this, you know, this transgender and all this stuff as being a relatively new thing. Because in the United States, I mean, you know, you go back, I mean, even when I was a kid, I'm 46 years old. Yeah. And when I was growing up and I was in high school and stuff like that, I mean, like nobody was openly gay. There was none of this stuff. It didn't even exist in the 90s. And then all of a sudden it just kind of blew up over the last couple of decades. So a lot of folks have this kind of preconceived notion or idea that like all of this stuff just sprang out of nowhere. And it's quite an eye opener when they figure out, oh, this was actually going on in post World War I Germany. Yeah, that's pretty amazing for a lot of folks out there when they realize that, because they think this stuff is all new, but it really isn't.
That's right. No, it's been around, and they really, I mean, it's always been part of the agenda to loosen up the public morality. You know, people without strong sense of virtue and discipline and self-control, in due time, they become easy pickings, a very controllable population. So for that reason, it's always been the case. Yeah, the New World Order cabal has always sought to soften up the morals, public morality. And it's interesting. I think it was Aldous Huxley or George Orwell. One of them once made the observation that it's sort of like an inverse relationship. When societies start to move leftward, there's less and less economic freedom and more of this so-called moral freedom.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that because it was the Treaty of Versailles that basically made Germany easy pickings, because the people were already demoralized.
Yeah.
And they were all, I mean, we've seen, you and I have done shows showing how many, like the wheelbarrow full of marks that you needed just a loaf of bread, and you had to spend all your money the minute you got it, and all that stuff. So the people are already demoralized. So that makes the ground more fertile for this type of sickness, for them to spread it around. Whereas the inverse is obviously not true. Is people, when they're experiencing strong economic times, the morale is high. That's when you tend to see that correlate with, morals, basically. The same things that
they want maximum economic and political control. And it sounds like a paradox, but it's not. That to facilitate that, they will allow maximum moral freedom or liberty, or proper word is license.
Right.
Okay. So people they become consumed and obsessed with their own vices. They don't really care about the higher things in life. And Germany kind of was easy pickings, especially among the young men. I mean, it was so discouraging, demoralizing, and they engineer it. So, everybody's puffed up for the war, and then the rug is pulled up, and you lose faith, not only in your government, but you throw out everything. Tradition, God, family, you say. And a lot of people were vulnerable to that, but it's also important to note that the seeds were actually planted even before that. With 1910-ish and the promotion of modern art. Very subtle messaging, but things like wars, wars are such traumas, and they really enable the planners to, in the wake of the wars, to kind of alter society. And you'll notice immediately after World War I, the fashion changed. I mean, it went almost within a period of years from Victorian era clothing covering up all the woman's skin to, you ever see the 20s, the flappers?
Oh yeah, the flappers,
Charleston, and they're looking kind of sexy all of a sudden, stuff like that. They unleashed it, but they had it in mind all along. In fact, in the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which was not translated until 1905, it's talking about this.
Yep.
And you would not really have observed this as a social trend in 1905.
No.
The loosening up of the morals, and then all of a sudden after World War I, in fact, the films that were made in the 20s started to get so raunchy that this is how the self-censorship regime was established in Hollywood.
Yeah, we actually talked about that last week a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, but there's a few years in the 20s you see some of the stuff. You're like, wow, this is the 20s. Remember Mae West? What was her famous line? Is that a gun in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Yeah.
That's kind of risque for the 1920s. Let me tell you.
Yeah, by today's standards, it's nothing. But back then,
right.
If you even showed like a little bit of like, forget about even the upper thigh of a woman, even like the calf muscle or something, that was considered really racy back then. But yeah, it kind of aligns with that whole ideology of trauma-based programming. After the war, the society is traumatized, and they become much more susceptible to all of these new ideas, let's just call them, and all this new programming. Basically, it's kind of like an extension of what the MK Ultra trauma-based. They traumatize people, and then that makes them more, suggestible and so forth. And they're just doing it on a societal level. And, you add on the economic tyranny to that as well. It's easy to see how this stuff spread like wildfire.
Well, look at the 1960s, right? The whole sexual revolution, the early homosexual revolution grew out of what? The anti-war movement.
Yep.
You get the generation of young people disillusioned about something, and often justifiably so, but there you are to take that and persuade them to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yep. So
not only has the political establishment been lying to you, everything's a lie. Throw out tradition, throw out God, and that's how they suck you in.
Yep.
And this goes way back. Every time a war goes badly, even the Franco-Prussian War, when the French lost, immediately thereafter there was a brief communist revolution. There's just a 1905, the Bolshevik Revolution came out of the loss of the Russo-Japanese War. And then the Tsar was finally overthrown in 1917, dissatisfaction with World War I. So,
and then you get communism and Stalin and basically hell in Russia up until Putin came along pretty much.
Now, it's just when a war goes badly, there's such a disillusionment.
Yep.
And that's that trauma you talked about. And that's when they could come in with this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it's not by accident that Berlin turned into Sodom and Gomorrah very soon after World War One.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about how Hitler recognized that and made that a huge priority. All right. Should I go to the next one, or is there more?
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. What do we got? All right. One of the books that was banned in Russia, or actually one of the stores was fined for carrying this book. Susan Sontag hyped up offer. I've never read any of her garbage, but it's a well-known name I've heard about many times.
I've heard the name too.
Yeah. I guess that alone tells you she's no good.
Yeah.
The really good writers, you're not going to hear their names, right?
Yeah.
But I've always known Susan Sontag. But she had a book she wrote later in her career. She had a very long career. I think she started writing in the 60s. Not sure if she's still alive yet or not, but
I'll look it up while you talk.
That's a more recent picture there with the skunk hairdo. But her book on women, she essentially comes out. She discovered in later years that she's bisexual. Supposedly she didn't know it, but now she knows.
No, she died.
She's dead
back in 2004. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, she's been gone a while. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she started writing in the 60s. So, in so-called literary circles, she's kind of a legend, which tells you all you need to know about her. That's like being on the cover of Time magazine or winning a Nobel Peace Prize. That's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the tell.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is one of the books cracked down on in Russia. She discovers in later life that she's a bisexual. So this is promising. It shows how deep they're going with the cleansing. This is far beyond just the children now. Get rid of all this garbage, and they should. It's got nothing to do with academic freedom.
Yep. So
that's Susan Sontag. I think her real name is Rubenstein. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
so
right.
She's one of the targets in.
Well, and it raises that interesting question too about because they always frame everything that they want to push on the public in the context of freedom, that's what we stand for. But is there a line? And I do believe that there is, between just pure freedom and actually maintaining a certain moral stand, and that really is kind of I know actually I got a lot of people who were sounding off about that, when Trump passed his when he signed his executive order about flag burning, right? There were a lot of people who were like, oh, it's our First Amendment right to nonviolent protest, and then all other people were saying, hey, if you want to burn our flag, get the hell out of our country. That's offensive to everyone, and it kind of raises that philosophical question about where is the line between I guess you could say freedom of expression and all of that versus, protecting a society from that moral degradation that we were talking about here. And it seems like Russia's got their finger on the pulse.
Well, you've got to be able to identify what is really, it's not about expression, but subversion.
Subversion is the key word.
Warfare. Yes. It's warfare. Nobody would have any aversion to shooting an enemy soldier or terrorist trying to overthrow a country, right?
Yeah,
these people don't have weapons, so
different form of war.
They paralyze you with this. Oh, civil rights, freedom of expression. You got to recognize that. No, that's not what these people are about.
They're weaponizing the principles of the country, but it's subversion.
Yeah. And the irony is, like with all of this stuff, it's always a satanic inversion. They're not promoting freedom; they're promoting tyranny.
Yep.
Because the more you break people down morally, the more anything that contributes to dissolution of the family, breakdown of public morals and self-control, it doesn't promote freedom. That undermines freedom.
That's right.
Because you want a free society, you need strong, healthy, virtuous, sane people.
Absolutely.
You undermine that, you're threatening freedom, not promoting it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Once you recognize that, then the restriction you begin to see the restrictions placed on this sort of stuff in a different light. It is warfare. And what do we learn from the Q operation? The one lesson we learned is that you don't need guns and bombs and bullets to wage warfare.
That's right.
They took down a whole new world order without firing a shot.
That's right. And they also they brainwashed an entire society of people without firing a shot either. I mean, you can make the argument that this type of subversion long term and on a macro scale is even more dangerous than kinetic warfare, because
hell yeah, the kinetic stuff is easy. You can recognize it, take precautions against it.
Right.
This stuff is nefarious, insidious, much more dangerous.
Yeah, it's that Trojan horse principle we're talking about there.
Yeah.
Yep. And okay, yeah.
So the Russians said "niet" to Suzanne Sontag.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's next? All right, now let's flash back to Germany in that interim period between the two world wars, known as the Weimar Republic, because that's where they moved the capital to Weimar.
Mm-hmm.
And this was peak degeneracy. And nobody embodies that more than this gentleman here, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, known as the Einstein of sex.
Oh, Lord. You're calling him a gentleman, Mike. You're doing him a favor. He doesn't.
Oh, God. Yeah, heavy sarcasm on that. But he established in Berlin, early 20s, the Institute of Sexual Research. And, that's how they puffed this guy up as a pioneer of LGBT and sexology. And it's just like Sigmund Freud and that whole greasy bunch. Everything is sex, 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 sex.
Well, and they also always put it in the context of science, like it's the Institute of Sexual Research. It's like,
right.
No, it's not. It's just sick perversion that you're. I mean, talk
That's
about.
Right. They just throw a scientific veneer over it. But this was some raunchy stuff. It's heavy. You see him on the cover of the book there. All the queers of Berlin and the trannies. This was anything goes in Berlin. Berlin was just. It was just nuts. There was no city in Europe like it. And I guess the deeper the disillusionment with what was done to Germany, it just really exacerbated this. I mean, the perversion's there to begin with, but then you throw on top of it just the total disillusionment with your country and the loss of the war. It just seemed like these young men were easy pickings. Yeah. But like I said, this stuff, I mean, this is the blossoming of it. The seeds go back even towards like the early 1900s. It's a gradual softening up, but things like a war help it to explode. Yeah,
they're taking the stigma away from the perversion.
Right.
That's basically what it is, and they're using this method of trying to frame it as if it's scientifically based. That somehow makes it okay. That somehow legitimizes all of this moral degeneracy.
Yeah, that's how they do, Yep. That's Freud. That was Freud. That's Hirschfeld. You put a scientific veneer on it and you sell it.
It works.
And if you question it, well, you're not trusting the science.
Where have we heard that before, Mike?
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Berlin was out of control. Let's see some lovely images here in our next panel.
Okay, I'm a little bit nervous. What are we going to say?
Brace yourself. There he is. There's Magnus Hirschfeld, himself a homosexual, by the way. And there's a whole den of queers and trannies right there, all lovey-dovey in Berlin. I mean, you could just see the insanity and depravity just jumping off that picture right there. But this was becoming normalized. And he wrote as far back in the 20s. And I should emphasize this isn't representative of Germany at the time. Mainly Berlin, some other cities.
It's always.
A lot of Germans were horrified at this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it was still in its infant stages,
but they were powerless to do anything about it too, and that's also
right. That element of it that did exist was really radical in Berlin. But there was still an enormous amount of this. So it's not as if the whole German population got corrupted overnight. Right. But this is Berlin. This would be the San Francisco of Germany. But make no mistake, in due time, and it was already happening in the German theaters and the German literature, this would have permeated throughout German society.
Yeah.
Okay.
What year are we talking about approximately? I know we're post World War I, but are we talking?
Well, they said these sorts of characters started setting up shop right away.
Right away. Yeah.
The war is over 1918, Treaty of Versailles 1919.
So
he sets up shop 1921, 22.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Institute of Sex Studies. And in the early 20s, he's already writing stuff like this. Homosexuality is part of the plan of nature and creation, just like normal love. So he's bringing in the blessing of, I guess, God, when he's saying that. It's just the plan of creation.
Mm-hmm.
But no, a lot of people were horrified over this. But, the large elements of the German press, the German theater, were going along with this.
Yep. Well, it stands to reason that the entire population wasn't going along with this, because when Hitler came around and he actually started turning all this stuff on its head, people were cheering. So obviously they all hadn't been
right. The cancer was spreading, but it had not engulfed the country yet.
Yeah. So
it was very easy for Hitler to just say, "That's it, game over." You didn't have to play this game of gradualism to unwind it.
Right.
But that's eventually, in due time, another generation passes. This would have become.
I was going to say, usually it
normal
takes
throughout Germany.
Too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's promoting it, and then the Jewish-owned newspapers of Germany are puffing this guy up, and then the theaters were starting to get raunchy, just like they were here. We spoke last week about Edison and the war against the big Jewish film producers who were stealing his technology, moved to Hollywood.
Right.
So this sort of assault was happening all over the world right after World War I. It was they really capitalized on that opportunity with their globalist initiatives. And also, the 1920s was just known as a period of a rapid deterioration in the moral order. But by the 30s, it kind of took some steps back. It reversed. So let me just put it this way. It was as bad and as raunchy back then, even in other countries, but it was still confined. Mm-hmm. Certain cities, certain elements of population. It wasn't like now anything goes is normal.
Right.
See, but in terms of its seriousness within a limited group, it was very, very extreme.
Right. And the fact that it was present in the United States just goes to show you that it didn't really matter who won the war, right? It was that trauma that we talked about on both sides, on all sides. After the war, it makes the people more malleable.
Yeah, that's right. It was as if somebody flipped the switch, and all of a sudden, all over the world, well, in Europe, and the United States, women's fashion changed, attitudes changed. It was really
who controls.
And you see that because this is a worldwide thing.
And who influences fashion? Like who sets all of those standards? Yeah. Who prints out all the magazines and the newspapers with the advertisement? Who makes all the movies? Who creates popular culture? That subversive element of popular culture. I mean, you're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
So that was the agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never by coincidence that you'll see different countries all over the world following the same trend at the same time.
No, of course not.
Right. It's not like, oh, look what they're doing, let's copy it. No, it's the agents are embedded in every country.
That's right.
So,
yep. Okay, next plan.
Yeah. Oh, isn't this lovely?
Oh gosh.
Hard to, most people I don't think can even contemplate or fathom that this is 1920s and 1930s. Right? You just automatically think of very prim and proper or prudish generation. Well, for the most part, it was. But like I said, within those circles, it was really crazy.
I mean, this is right after the Victorian era.
That's right.
Thing too.
Think about it. Yeah.
That's.
But the war helped to induce that. It's like, think about it. It is all throughout Europe. Millions of young men slaughtered. Millions maimed and crippled. That's a trauma. Even in the countries that won, I think 1 million Frenchmen died. You know what I'm saying? So
they had never seen weaponry like this before.
No. Your mind by the end of it is so blown that this is just the perfect time to launch this kind of stuff.
And that's when the whole whole like modernism started coming along with the art, like
Picasso
breaking things down, morality. Yep. Right in the post-war period. That was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So look at these lovely gentlemen dancing cheek to cheek in Berlin.
It reminds me of the gay bar scene in the Police Academy movies. Remember those? They stumble in there by accident and someone just grabs you and starts dancing with them.
And look at that gruesome twosome on the right there.
Yeah.
This is looks like Janet Reno and somebody else there. But those are dudes. Those are dudes in Berlin.
Wow.
And to a lesser extent, this would be happening in Paris, other cities. But Berlin was hands down, not even close, man.
This is crazy. I mean, I never thought I would see a picture from the 1920s with a couple of guys dancing without a shirt on inside of a club. I didn't even know that existed. Wow.
And in these clubs, there will be a lot of German officers. You see German officers with little boys. I mean, there's a lot of pedo element to this as well. Okay.
They were pushing that
in a club. Yeah. So it was everything. It was the pedo. It was the trainees. And that was Berlin. It was a very it was like the stronghold of the German Communist Party, and this would be the Trotskyite flavor of the Communist Party, promoting all this degeneracy. Yeah. So everything has got to be understood in context, because later on we're going to see. I guess you already know now what kind of books the big bad brown shirts would be burning.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you mentioned the Trotskyite kind of, just for folks out there who aren't familiar, the Trotskyite branch, if you will, of communism was this moral degeneracy, whereas like Stalin, on the other hand, would have been against all this stuff. Correct?
That's right. Yeah. And there was that in the wake of Lenin's death, there was an internal struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Stalin and Trotsky, who had headed the Red Army, Trotsky was eventually exiled. Yeah, and Stalin sent somebody to kill him and put a pickaxe through his eyeball. But that was an important distinction. There were communists who were like ultra nationalists, were just like economic communists. And, but then you had the ones who really didn't care about the country, the Soviet. For them, it was just worldwide revolution in a one world state and promoting that level of degeneracy. So, even within something like a communist movement, you're going to have like different flavors of stuff. But this is pure Trotskyiteism, Frankfurt Schoolism, George Soros school, promote this kind of moral degradation, destroy families, destroy people. Mm-hmm. And, you make a society of people who, not necessarily to this extreme, but even the type of people who might look at this and shrug their shoulders, those are people who are easy to dominate. They don't want virtuous religious people because those people will be loyal to God. They can't control them. They want degenerates.
That's right.
So this is the agenda.
Yep. It's all about the war.
This is political. It's not about freedom. Yep.
It's all about, and we're going to be talking about this more a little bit later in the show, but it's all about, it's the same basic principle, the war on whites and the war on Christianity.
Yep.
You can trace it all the way back.
So you'll find tons of images. Anyone wants to look through Weimar Republic, LGBT, or Weimar gay images, you'll see them all.
I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah. I've given enough. Okay, so now we go to May 1933. The so-called big bad Nazis only in power 2 months, and this was one of their early demonstrations here. Young college students who had their heads on straight, not the crazy college students, and the big bag brown shirts. They you see them there burning books. We've heard of this a million times. We've all seen these images. They're in our high school history books. Oh, horrible. Well, this demonstration took place at Max Hirschfeld's Institute of Sex Research. They're burning commie and homo and pedo books. That's what they're burning.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you that. But what's
Context matters. Context
Context is everything. They don't tell you that.
Yep.
And I tell you, I grew up thinking, boy, what assholes. What? Okay, you don't like someone's political view, have a debate or something. You don't burn books.
Well, that's the way you were conditioned, you see. That's the way that
that's
all of
the lie of omission.
Yep.
Which Tennyson said is the blackest lie of all. It really is. If you're telling a story, but you're omitting key details, you're lying, but without actually lying.
Right.
But what's interesting is this Times article on the Russian book censorship. Mm-hmm. It does explain what it is.
Really?
Well, yeah, I just read it to you, the Times article.
Oh, yeah.
That they were removing Susan Sontag's book.
Sontag, yeah.
And LGBT books. So isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I forgot temporarily that was.
Right, that's all right. You were thinking I was talking about
the
German books.
Yeah.
So, that was an interesting
it's a white hat production.
Yeah, once again, because I tell you, in years past, they wouldn't say that. They would just say, oh, they're burning liberal books.
Yep.
But no, they specifically, in this New York Times article, say it's LGBT.
Yeah. And that's the tell. You know that the good guys are behind it because they are giving you that all-important context. Whereas
right.
Times of old would lie by omission.
That's right. And the rest of the media still feeds on the Times. So this story got a lot of traction. And, there'll be a lot of people who still don't agree with that. But there'll also be a lot of people who say, oh, it's LGBT stuff. Well, that's a little different.
Yeah.
So nobody is telling you that you can't disagree with your government or anything like that. Not in Russia, nor in Germany. But you can't promote Marxist overthrow of the government and lesbianism, homosexuality, LGBT, pedophilia. That's what they're burning. It's the big bad brown shirts.
And it's like when you're growing up in school, like the way that you talked about your impression that the impression that these images left on you as a young kid, and naturally you were thinking, oh, that's just terrible. That's antithetical to freedom, and you should have a debate and all these things. That's the way they train us to think from a very young age.
Right.
They never give us the context, but they also what never gets discussed by omitting that context is the whole idea of subversive material. Like none of this stuff was ever framed in that sense. It was just like, oh, they're burning knowledge.
Yeah, like Mongols.
What we were actually burning were the way we would describe it today would be almost like, fifth generation. It's a different type of warfare.
Yeah. That's poison. That's poison they're burning right there.
Yeah.
And you think the founders of this country, when they were crafting the Bill of Rights, that they had these sort of books in mind?
No.
When they talked about freedom of the press? Shut up. You think they would have tolerated LGBT? Right?
But Jefferson and Madison would be
they'd be the ones lighting the fire.
Yeah, well, everybody in the country back then was essentially white and Christian.
Yeah.
It's a and that's the thing. That's where the replacement migration comes in and all that type of stuff. Yeah. The divide and conquer, the tribalism, because that's how you break down the moral character of a society. Back then, they wouldn't have tolerated that. I mean, you see memes all the time of George Washington, pointing to our rulers saying, like, why haven't, pointing to the deep state people saying, why haven't you hanged these bastards yet? They went to war over a 2% tax on tea. I mean, obviously that's an oversimplification, but I mean, they certainly they would have hung these bastards a long time, or hanged these bastards a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, let's move on here. Oh, that was the last one. Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. So that's just a yet another interesting parallel, and there are so many between Putin's Russia and the portrayal of Putin's Russia in the fake news media and Hitler's Germany. So many examples. And another one would be, I mean, the situation in Ukraine, totally analogous to the situation with Poland and Germany, right? Using one country to pick a fight with the other for the purpose of bringing in a world war. That kind of, there's so many parallels.
Oh yeah. All right.
So
that was fantastic. As per usual, amazing analysis. And like I said in the beginning of the show, this is what Mike does. I mean, he can connect the dots. He can take you back in time and show you that basically it's the same struggle. It's the same war that's been going on now for, hundreds of years at this point.
Yeah.
Just different manifestations, different seasons. but it's the same basic struggle. So before we get into our next article, why don't we pull up Mike's website here now that you've had, I mean, everybody in the audience, I think most folks out there, this is not your first experience with the great Mike King, but for those of you folks who are new, let's take you to his website, which is, as I say every week, a primary source for me and for many other people out there. His real news and history. Fake history is the fake news that has passed into the rearview mirror. So this is Mike's website. He's going to tell you all about it. He's going to focus a little bit on what his specific niche is, what he does so well that is filling an all-important need, a void really within our movement that only Mike King is really filling that void. And it's not a small void. This is massive. You have the foundation. You can understand what's going on so much better. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Mike, and we'll bring up your Rumble page, we'll bring up your Amazon page, show folks where they can purchase your books, etc.
Well, indeed, I began this endeavor with that specific idea in mind, filling niches that I saw were, missing. Somebody had to do that. One niche is the weaving together of the historical narrative with the contemporary stuff, as I just did in this piece. And you'll find that in almost all my articles, certainly all my books, is this marriage, this fusion between the history and the news, because we are the product of what happened in the past, you see. So that's very important, because it truly does enhance our understanding of contemporary times when you see the history that we came from. I like to say, if you don't know history, you're like someone with Alzheimer's walking around halftime of a crowded football stadium and what's going on? Where did I come from? You see,
how did I get here? What is this? Yeah. Looking around.
It really is, because if your frame of reference just begins with the Q operation or post-COVID, or a lot of people woke up in the wake of the 9/11 false flag, that's great. You're still way ahead of normies, but you've missed the first 75% of the movie, which I give you. So that's an important niche, which I filled, which nobody else seems to be occupying, quite frankly.
That's true.
And then the other deficiency, which I saw sort of in our general community, is the ability to convey enormous amounts of information in a way that people can digest it quickly.
Right.
Now, I can't tell you how many books and articles I've read and analyzed over the last 30 years. You can't expect people to do that. And it's really not necessary. But I wanted to put together a body of work that people could just read and plow through and understand it. Very clear, concise, simple, and sticky. By sticky, I mean you read it, sticks in your mind. And I call upon my marketing and advertising background. In the way I present stuff, it sticks. And people really, really appreciate it, because it's a day and age of limited attention spans, number one. Secondly, the time restraints. You got work, you got family, whatever. I just give it to you, and I strike that perfect balance between being keeping it simple without being simplistic.
Yeah.
So some of my booklets can be read in an hour. Some of the longer ones, it might take 4, 5, 6 hours. My articles are very clear and concise. It's total economy of words. I just give you what you need, and you come up the learning curve so quickly and in a manner that's so captivating and intriguing and interesting. So that's a big void. So
that's a huge talent. I don't think a lot of folks. Yeah. I think folks who follow you obviously appreciate it as I do, but a lot of people don't realize how difficult that is. That is a talent to be able to hone in on the real key stuff that you need to know, and to be able to create a narrative that goes along with it that enables folks to be able to retain the information, and doing it with the economy of words, and keeping in mind the limited attention span, the time constraints that people are under. And not only that, I mean, nowadays, especially, you say it all the time, you blink, you miss something. We're getting bombarded with a month worth of news every single day at this point.
Yeah.
So
I just keep it to the essentials. And there's always a lot of good stuff that I have to leave on the cutting room floor, because I'm actually creating these works with that principle in mind. Can they read it in an hour or a couple sittings, 2 hours? Will they digest it? And a lot of thought goes into that.
Yeah.
You're
not just
in a way, ironically, it's it may be more challenging to put together these simple books than a 1,000-page encyclopedia book.
It's almost like you're
because you have to structure it so you get all the stuff you need in there and it sticks.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, it's almost like you're reverse engineering the whole thing. Like most people would just say, oh, I have all this knowledge that I want to share with my readers, and just kind of brain dump all over the place. Whereas you're looking at it and you're trying to focus on like, what's the end result that I want, and how do I work backwards to get there, in a sense. And that's a unique skill.
You read my stuff, my website, my books and booklets, and you will have more than enough to fulfill your responsibilities as a responsible citizen in a republic.
Yep.
And if you don't need PhD level, but you need enough.
Right.
If you want to know more, I also point you in that direction. If you are inclined to reading other books and putting more meat on the bone, so to speak, I lead you in that direction as well.
Yep.
But this is a very important, I believe, a very important two important niches that I'm filling, and I seem to be the only one in this little corner of the world doing it, which is great. We need to get more people aware of this because I don't know anywhere else where you can learn this much amount of material in such a short amount of time, and an entertaining and interesting and sometimes funny presentation style. So it's very
that's
unique.
the other thing. You're not just a historian, but you're also a great teacher. So, you're putting these works together, but you come on podcasts, you do your own videos, which we'll talk about in a minute, that are really engaging for people. And you have those teaching skills as well to make it come alive. So, this is a very talented man you're looking at right here.
Wow. Thank you. People who discover my stuff love it. We just got to get more people discovering it, because it seems like every time I'm on my way, the deep state would find something to mess with me. There's a whole story there. But now that's loosening up, I'm happy to say. But there's the website, realnewsandhistory.com. Please bookmark it, visit it often. There's a ton of free content, but you really want to get these books and booklets, 34 in all that I've authored over the course of the last 14 years. And you can get it all in a single PDF package. That's Mike King University there. $29. You get all 34. It's a steal.
Yep.
If you like old school, something physical in your hands, there's also a books and PDF page, and you could submit which books you want, order through me. Most of them are on my Amazon page, which is Mike King or Mike S. King. Go to my Amazon author page, except like some of the World War II stuff and the Hitler stuff. We can't get that on Amazon, but you can still get it through me. So that's the second element of the trifecta here. You got the website, realnewsandhistory.com. My Amazon page is Mike S. King. A lot of the books are there. So a lot of the stuff is in Kindle as well.
Yeah. This is the trifecta we talk about every week. It's just kind of like, it's almost like the Mike King starter pack right here.
Yeah. People will often ask me, what order should I read the books in? And I say 1, 2, 3. Crash Course 9/11 Inside Job, because that's your hook.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to show that to a newbie or normie, unless they're totally retarded and insecure, there's no way you can read that book and say, something's not right about 9/11. That's why I say it's such a powerful hook. From there, you graduate to Crash Course NWO, 250 years of the globalist conspiracy, 1 hour read, large print, lots of images. And then in the center, the secret plan to save humanity, the rise of the Q operation. That's the happy ending to that story. And all three of those books are available in paperback on Amazon. Again, you could get it through the website as well. And also, they're all part of the PDF package. But, a lot of folks have taken it upon themselves to, over time, or some guys do it all at once because I got a package deal. $475 if you want them all in physical format. Beautiful coffee table books, too. Yeah. Most of them are, by the way, 11. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the World War II page that Mike was talking about. I mean, very easy to navigate. I think it's pretty obvious. But just to show folks here, this is where you can get The Bad War and also The Song That Never Ends. I'm actually in the process of reading that right now. Yeah. And Mike and I did a multi-part series. I think it was like 6 shows we did to cover The Bad War.
Yeah, we covered that in depth. And that's important because that is the That's the foundation of the modern New World Order. It was built on the ruins of World War II and World War I, which I also cover in that book. So it's really, you're getting 2 wars plus the Soviet Revolution. Beautiful coffee table books, nice conversation starters.
Yep.
You'll lose your family and friends over it, but that's okay.
It comes with a warning label, folks. But
what's this?
Most of the audience has already checked off that box, Mike. I mean, honestly,
that's all right. We're waiting. We're waiting for the public unveiling, the replay of the storm. And
aren't we ever? Yeah, we're getting closer though. We're getting closer. I think a lot of big developments this week. Maybe towards the end of the show we might touch upon a couple of them, but we're definitely making progress. But anyway, go on.
And so that's it. You get the book site. You get the Amazon. And then the third element now, which I've really been focusing on these last few months, I wish I had started sooner. I got so discouraged because years ago I started a YouTube channel and it was growing rapidly. And then it got holocausted. And I'm like, oh, screw this. I lost all the videos, everything. But now here I am with 20,600 subscribers.
That's just going to keep going up and up.
Yeah, people now are sending the links to their friends. Check out this guy, Mike King. So I'm very excited. If you're not following me yet on Rumble, please do so. The higher the follower count, the more legitimacy the channel obtains, which causes even more higher count. Okay, so maybe by this time next week we'll be at 21,000. So that's Mike King on Rumble. And I've got I'm doing videos on some current events, some Q stuff. It's a mix. My main project now that I want to get done, I just completed episode 27, is I'm doing the whole history of the cabal from its inception. I'm going to take it up to the modern day in the Q operation. Probably by the time I'm said and done, we're looking at 40 episodes or more. That's Rise and Fall of New World Order Cabal. You go to my Rumble channel, there's a playlist. You can find the playlist for it. You can also access it from the front page of my website. Right. There's playlists. Yeah, I'm starting to do different categories.
There you go.
But that one there is going to take you through 300 years of this stuff. And this is a continuation. There's no question about it. From generation to generation, it's the same. I mean, when you come to realize, for example, that the Rothschild brothers ganged up on Napoleon and funded the British and other allies to take out Napoleon. This is like, 220 years ago? And then you have their direct descendants, their great-grandsons.
Running the world.
Chummy photos with the Clintons.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yep.
But that's how deep that is. So you definitely want to watch that series. But start with episode 1 and go through them in chronological order. That will enhance your understanding, and people are really loving this series and appreciating it. And they're only about, on average, 30 to 35-minute episodes. Okay, so that's it. That's your trifecta. Rumble channel. Again, please follow me. Don't just watch the videos. Make it a point to join Rumble and follow.
Yep.
And the Amazon is Mike King, the author page, and the website, realnewsandhistory.com.
Absolutely. And we've said this over the past several weeks, but it's really important for folks to just create an account on Rumble. And it's a totally free way to be able to help us boost the content and get it out to more people.
Yeah.
Boost it up in the algorithms to make it more accessible. It's like Mike talked about. It's kind of a, it's an exponential thing. I mean, as your number of followers grows, that sense of legitimacy around your channel grows.
Yeah.
This leads to more and more and more proliferation of the information. And that's really what this is all about. So, just take the time. It only takes a couple of minutes to set up a Rumble account if you haven't done so already.
Yeah.
That'll give you the opportunity to, when you're watching the show live, you can engage in the chat with everybody, which is a great feature. Again, none of this costs anything. You watch the show live, you can engage in the chat, you can leave a comment. And most importantly, you can hit that like button, and you can also share the material. So that really goes a long way for both Mike and myself.
Yeah.
That's really it's huge. So please take the time to do that. I'll just remind everybody, if you haven't hit that thumbs up button, folks, if you made it this far into the video, please take a moment to do that for us.
And email the links around as well. Post it on your Twitter.
Share them on social media.
That's how we grow.
Yep.
Because it's a shame if people don't come across this stuff. And I like to say, I don't say I'm the best at what I do, but I'm literally the only one doing it, as far as I know. This constant weaving together of the historical narrative with the current, and people just find that so empowering. And I can't tell you how many times they write to me or in the comments, I always hated history. It was so boring, but the way you explain it, I love it.
Yep.
So it's important that the history gets out as well as the news.
And by the way, since we're talking about following, also for both myself and for Mike's got a bigger Twitter than I do, but mine's steadily growing. So make sure if you're, or X, I should say. First of all, folks, if you're not on X, it took me a long time to figure it out for the penny to finally drop, because I was like Truth Social, Telegram. I didn't want anything to do with Jack Dorsey and any of his. But the reality is when Elon took over, this became the information battlefield. I mean, this is where all the information is. And you really got to join X, and you got to follow Mike, and you got to follow me as well. I noticed here, Mike, at the top of your page, you got is this a promo you're running right here for Crash Course? What was that?
That's a promo. It's actually a post that I'm promoting. You can pay Twitter, and they'll promote your post.
Oh, okay. All right.
And what I'm offering here is a free PDF.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's a little more incentive, folks.
Of the 9/11 book. So that image will take you to a page in my website, and you can either buy the book. I can't give away for free, obviously. That's a physical book you order through Amazon. If you don't want to order it through Amazon, you can get the free PDF through my website.
Well, that's a pretty good. I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's a pretty good deal.
It's a Twitter offer, so you to find it, you got to follow me on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is @TomatoBubble, or you could search for the name realnewsandhistory.com.
Yeah. Real easy, folks. And just a little extra incentive to find Mike.
Real News and History. Yeah.
On X. Yeah. Search up Real News and History.
Yeah. Follow me on X too. Let's get those numbers up and well. Follow me, retweet me.
Yep.
So, you're also empowering yourself, because we're all digital warriors. Even if your audience is only 10 people, if you get that out to, I mean, collectively, we
all started at that same place, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember when I couldn't believe it, my jaw hit the floor when I hit 100 followers on BitChute. I was like, what? I thought I was seeing things. And, here we are 4 years later, and it's like north of 83,000. So that's how it works, Keep putting out that truthful information, like that line in the movie. If you build it, they will come, people will show up. So make sure you're supporting Mike. And we always say he's been doing this. I mean, he woke up in the like 30 years ago, and he's been doing this professionally for 14 years. That's the other thing to keep in mind. I mean, I'm hoping one day to be a full-time podcaster. It hasn't materialized yet. I think possibility it might at some point in the future, but Mike does this. I mean, this is literally his income. So also keep that in mind as well for those of you folks out there who might be on the fence. I mean, this is how Mike earns his living. So please support what he does. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and pivot back into our presentation tonight, and we're going to talk about the second article, which I mentioned at the top of the show. And of course, this also ties into what we were talking about about the war against white Christianity in general, but certainly white people, white Christians. So go ahead, Mike. Let's plow through this.
Well, this very gratifying to see this. This is he's been doing this now for more than a year, calling attention to what the black Marxist government of South Africa had been doing, their mistreatment of the white farmers. And it was forbidden to even speak this way for the longest time.
Right.
And you'll recall back in earlier this year, he had the president of South Africa in the office, and they set him up for a humiliation ritual.
Yeah, I do. What was that guy's name? Cecil
Ramaphosa or something.
Ramaphosa, that's right. Yeah, Ramaphosa. Yeah, we did it. We did a segment on that. I remember. Yep.
So he has gone to bat totally for the whites of South Africa. And that's just wonderful to see. I mean, we don't want to see anybody brutalized, regardless of their race. But that includes white people too, and they've been getting it pretty bad these last 30 ever since the fall of apartheid. So in this latest onslaught, this latest attack in the information warfare campaign, Trump has announced that the United States will not participate in next week's G20, Group of 20, which is the 20 largest economies in the world. They meet every year for this globalist spectacle. It's being hosted by South Africa this year. And he's not going because of the way they mistreat whites. And I suspect that's already ended or been greatly curtailed. The systematic abuse or neglect of whites, particularly the white farmers, because of Trump has brought attention to it. But he's still hammering away on this issue. And he's opening up the country to any white farmers who want to immigrate here as political refugees from South Africa. Yep. And being the king of the world, he's already announced that next year's G20 will be held at his resort, Doral Resort in Miami.
So is this the G20, Mike, or is it the Q20?
It's definitely the Q20. You know why? Because
so.
This is a New World Order organization. This is globalist spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
And these organizations now are all under the thumb of the operation or put out of business. But, for a while longer, they will still continue to
prop up the illusion.
And they might actually develop into a different kind of farm, something useful,
Yeah, that's what they're doing, and folks know the program. They're propping up the illusion of the old system so that they can tear it down systematically for all the normies. That's the replay. That's the movie we're watching. Nothing new there, but just important to frame it in that context. That's everything we talk about, we're watching a scripted movie, folks.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. There may be some kinetic elements here and there. We're not suggesting that every single thing you see is fake, but by and large, it's like our friend Dave says, you might as well assume it's a psyop until proven otherwise nowadays.
Yeah, that's about right. It's better to err on the side of psyop. But then you see him meeting supposedly with Prime Minister Orban of Hungary, who's a total ally. It's interesting on the flanks there. You see J.D. Vance, who has an IMDb profile as an actor.
Does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, just like Mike Johnson.
I knew Johnson. I didn't know.
Yeah, so many of them have those IMBD profiles.
Mamdani does. I know that.
Mamdani is another one.
Yeah.
And the other character, Marco Rubio, he just gets younger looking every year, and his hair gets fuller.
Yeah, right. Where do you sign up for that?
I don't know.
I guess you have to be a part of it.
But it's hard to tell what is even real. Did Orban even come here? Is it an actual meeting?
Honestly, though, Rubio he looks like 15 years younger than he did when he ran for president.
That's right. And he was his hair's got much thicker, but it's not transplants because it looks natural. Really, I don't know.
Something about
his face hasn't aged.
His face doesn't look natural at all.
No, his face isn't natural. And he's such a corrupt character.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole story behind Rubio. Again, is it theoretically possible you preserve his name? He's got the Cuban name. He's down in Florida. You put him under submission. They do that as well, but I don't think that's him, frankly.
Like painting the, taking the chest piece off and painting it white, like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's him. But this is something years ago unthinkable. The G20, you can't boycott the G20.
If you're King Trump, you can.
Yeah. So let's get into this here.
All right.
And again, this is a twofer. I love these twofers. They're delegitimizing the G20 even more, another institution of globalism, and once again bringing the issue of the farm murderers and the oppression of middle-class whites in South Africa, keeping that front and center.
Making it mainstream because nobody was paying attention to this.
You couldn't talk about it. Just talking about it would be racism, right? You can't criticize South Africa.
Yeah. It's racist against black people to say that they're genociding white people. Did you know that?
Yeah. But there's that spectacle. I mean, right there, it is all scripted. This character was not ambushed, if it's even him. Ramaphosa came to the White House. He's showing the pictures of murdered white people. And the people in South Africa, they love him now, the white people. They have demonstrations, pictures of Trump, because the whole world has ignored them. Now they have a champion. And because the world is watching, I don't think it's happening anymore. I don't know. I don't live in South Africa, but I'm sure South African government has been taken aside and say, World King Trump says to stop this.
Right. And unless you want the American military to step in, you guys better deal with that. Yeah, I've still seen some videos of the usual suspects, and I don't know their names, but these guys who get up in the football stadiums, stadiums there, and they're still talking about kill Whitey and take the land.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to tell to what extent that's part of the production at this point.
Yeah.
But it would stand to reason that because Trump has put a spotlight on this and he's made it mainstream, and he's essentially Commander Trump, as we all know, that it's probably taken a turn for the better.
Oh yes, an intense spotlight, and also Elon Musk. South African, which is interesting because he never discussed the plight of these poor people before.
No.
Only now that he's Elon Musk. So he's also placed a huge spotlight on this issue.
Remember him in the Oval Office? He was just like, he was grilling Ramaphosa. He was just staring at him. And
that was a party act, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, big production.
Yeah.
That was great to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I thought this development offers a good teachable moment to review the true history of South Africa. And people realize that the real victims of oppression have always been the Boers, which is the word for farmer. These are the descendants of mainly Dutch settlers, also French Huguenots, some German.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the aftermath of some of the religious wars. These were newer Protestant sects. So they packed up and they headed for the southern tip of Africa. The early settlers arrived at the Cape of Africa, that's why they call it the Cape of Good Hope, a long time ago, mid-1600s. They were mainly farmers, but the Boers, that's the word for the farmer. That's why when they chant in the stadium, "Kill the Boer, the farmer."
Now, were they escaping some sort of oppression in the wake of what was going on in the mid 1600s with all?
Yeah, this is still. I mean, the Protestant Reformation is like only 70, 80 years prior, and then you had the religious wars of Europe, right? And the 30 Years' War.
Well, these are all white Christians who were basically.
They were Protestants. So you had all of this conflict between. And the religious spilled over into the political. Like you have a certain prince is Protestant, another one's Catholic, and just a lot of fighting, and just cases where the Protestants were in power, they oppressed the Catholics, and vice versa.
Right.
So they just came to get away from all that. Got it.
Yep.
Not unlike the American Pilgrims or Puritans, only these were not as self-righteous as some of those.
They weren't like religious zealots like the Puritans.
Yeah, but they were deeply devout, and they maintained that to this day.
Mm-hmm. And
so they arrived, and they established a colony, for lack of a better word. They didn't colonize anybody. This is virgin land essentially. So they arrive and they begin building and farming.
That's a key point right there.
Well. Yeah,
that's absolutely a key point that he just made.
Right. This isn't like the Zionists taking over Palestine and emptying out their villages, terrorizing them, forcing them to leave.
That would be the Nakba, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is. Africa's a big place, very sparsely populated at that time. So they found the land and they started building.
And nobody was there.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Hardly anybody was there. Tribes. No communities, no houses, no cities, nothing. So they built from scratch.
No displaced population.
They didn't displace anybody. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's what's key. All right. if you listen to the propaganda, you would think there were these great, I don't know, black cities or something that were
exactly that's
taken over and burned or something.
Yep.
No, there's nothing there. Now by 1806, now the colony's up and running, it's prospering. Naturally, the British got to get their nose in everything, and it's a great location. They seize control of the Cape Colony.
Mm-hmm.
So they made the Boers British subjects, essentially.
Now, at this point in history, in the early 1800s, certainly the Rothschilds were very influential and powerful in Britain, but they hadn't really fully taken control because that was post-Napoleon, correct?
Yeah, it was really the final wars against Napoleon where they were able to really assert themselves and then parlay that economic influence into more and more political influence. But this was mainly just, the British could be bastards on their own without help from the Rothschilds. Yeah.
So this was just the crown. This was British imperialism.
Yeah, right. The sun never sets on the British Empire. They're in Asia, and they're in South America, they're in North America.
There really wasn't much Zionist influence in this particular.
No, not on this. Later on, but not at this time. That's why the British and the Jewish cabal made such good partners, because they kind of had a similar mentality. The British felt in Anglo supremacy, and the Jewish were like Jewish supremacy. And the British felt, hey, we can make them subjects and use their money. Okay, be careful who you get in bed with. Ultimately, they got knocked off as well, as we all know.
Yep.
So the oppression and the bullying of the Boers begins with the British,
yep,
and then later on the cabal.
Got it.
Point number 3: due to British bullying, the Boers moved northward. Start all over again. They trek. This is called the Great Trek of the 1830s and 40s. And you see an image there in their covered wagons. They said, okay, we want our own homeland. And once again, they went deep. They went up north, and all virgin forest. They cleared it, right? Nobody living there.
And this was after the Boer Wars with the British, correct?
Yeah, well, this wasn't a war yet. There wasn't a war. The Boer Wars come later on, but this was just the British. Okay. This is just the British taking control of the area.
Got it. Okay.
And they want to be free of the British.
Got it.
So they went northward, Virgin Territory, and they established the Orange Free State and the South African Republic, also known as Transvaal, were established. Again, from scratch. Their country.
Yep.
And they put their farms and their roads and their buildings and school, all of the trappings of a civilization.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now? Some of the local Black African tribes start migrating there. Hey, can you give me a job? that sort of stuff. All right. So the true indigenous people, so-called, of these regions are the Boers.
Mm-hmm.
They built it from scratch.
Yeah, there were Black Africans there, but they ended up migrating because
they're in tribes living in huts, essentially.
Yeah, they saw better opportunities. So they were actually, I'm guessing here, but I from what I remember from previous talks is that they were essentially met with benevolence at first, right? Like they were.
Oh yeah, and as years passed, they would do so much for them and uplift their standard of living, and they actually got along. Okay, but it's their country, so that's like the second time they built a civilization.
Not enough.
First, the British come, and then they go even northward to set up. But that's what happened because of the prosperity and the civilization that they established. It's always the case that some of the locals want in, and that's how the blacks arrived.
Yep. And later on, you're going to get the complete inversion of everything that Mike just explained to you. So keep this in mind. Yep.
So that's what they built. You see all of those like settlements and the migration routes,
mm-hmm.
and eventually just great cities and I mean a first-rate country on par with any Western European country. Mm-hmm. That's what they built.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. What's next here?
Oh, we had a fifth.
Hardworking, industrious, religious. Okay. They were like the Amish. only they didn't discourage technological progress like the Amish did. Although today the Amish, I think they drive and they do a lot of stuff. They're getting
oh, do they?
a little more.
I still
Yeah,
see,
yeah. They'll drive and they'll access electricity. So they're, but that's how they were. But deeply, you know, their religion is very important to them. They're very, very devout, industrious people.
Mhm.
And, you know, this is what the cabal hates,
Of course.
right? They're white, they're Nordic white, they're Christian, hardworking, industrious, traditional, pro-family.
Yeah.
No coincidence that they built a great country from scratch.
Yep.
What happens next? Okay, the British, by now, they're in league with the Rothschild cabal. The Rothschilds are their big funders. And the Boer republics, they begin to clash over territory, mining rights, and political control. Diamonds are discovered. So you know that's going to be trouble.
Yep.
Because both the British and the Jewish cabal feel they own everything in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now come the Boer Wars. The first Boer War was 1880 to 81, and the Boers held them back, and they won.
So the British were encroaching on them from the south, right? So it was like
yeah, because now the British are established in the Cape. That's
like
British.
The Cape of Africa, right?
That's British, and then above that is Boer.
Mm-hmm. So when the British actually first showed up, there was no actual conflict. The Boers just said, "The hell with this. We're just going to find some."
Yeah, right. They would not even have been in a position to resist them. So the British just showed up, start taking over, and they're like, "Okay, let's get away from them."
But by this point, they've actually developed.
So it was the British who, you know, caused or triggered the Great Trek, as they call it. So that's like important in their history. They call it the Great Trek. I mean, it seems like it's not far on a map, but when you consider how immense South Africa is, you know, I don't know, 1,000 miles, whatever, hundreds of miles.
Yeah. So one would have to assume that the Boers probably knew this was coming and therefore started to build up their ability to bid defiance to the British.
Yeah, because they actually did beat them back the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you know, the British were going to come back. And the second Boer War is 1899 to 1902. And this was brutal. This is where the first concentration camps were set up. And they were putting not only the prisoners of war, but women and children in the concentration camps. And sometimes they weren't the most sanitary or a bit neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So they suffered greatly, the Boers, at the hands of the British.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they got diamonds now, you know, and who ended up controlling the diamond business in South Africa? The big Jewish family, the Oppenheimers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has a lot to do, as more of a curse than anything, the discovery of diamonds and other minerals in South Africa.
Yeah, anything of value that they can pillage from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the British won, and now they unite everything. It's called the Union of South Africa, established in 1910, essentially combining those Boer republics, the Transvaal, the Orange State, with the British colonies, and it's just under British rule, the Union of South Africa. So now it's a British outpost.
Yeah, so the British have conquered South Africa at this
point. And this is 1910. So now it's not just it's Britain / Rothschild.
Right.
Okay. Because by now they're a partnership, politically and economically.
Cabal territory.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see, these Boers have been getting it for a while. Right? There's an image of their concentration camps, open air concentration camps. It's a little better than the Eisenhower's camps, where he murdered 1.5 million Germans because they're exposed in cold weather. South Africa has a temperate climate, but nonetheless, you look at an image like that, okay, and you can infer what's going to happen: disease, hunger. Where are these guys shitting and pissing? By the way, they dig holes, you know. So this is a very brutal existence, and I don't know if we'll ever know how many people ended up dying in concentration camps.
Now you mentioned the fact that they were putting the women and children in these concentration camps as well, and I'm not to really veer off topic too much here, but we've talked about the German internments that began in 1941,
Yep.
it is a fact that they had women and children in those concentration camps as well, correct?
The German internments?
Yeah.
Yeah, but those were buildings with beds and latrines and activities. So it's almost like living on a college campus. This is an open air camp.
Right. Okay.
And
So
they got
from that
nothing.
perspective, you can't compare the two. I get that.
Right. Yeah.
But the idea of, I mean, has it ever bothered you that Hitler decided that he was going to intern the women and the children along with? Because I think a lot of folks could say, well, if he had to put the let's just say the fighting age Jewish males in concentration camps as a precaution, a wartime precaution, that would seem a lot more palatable to people. But when you add in the women and the children, that kind of changes the equation a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's hard to put the parents in without the children. And the fact is, you had all the leaders of Jewry as declared war against Germany as a Jewish race. So, Germany's fighting for its survival.
And you couldn't really separate.
It was meant as a temporary wartime precaution until such time they could be relocated to Madagascar, which is off the coast of Southern Africa. That was the plan right there.
Actually, even Netanyahu has admitted that public in speeches. Yeah. But
that's interesting. They put those words in the character of Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost like he's mitigating it or portraying it in a little bit more accurate light. But
he even says that Hitler didn't want to exterminate all the Jews. He wanted to, to basically put them in. I don't know if he actually said Madagascar in the clip that I saw.
Yeah.
But that it was some Muslim or somebody convinced Hitler to exterminate all of them, which, that part, of course, I didn't believe.
But there were over 100,000 Jewish partisans. Many of them were women and some were children, like boys, 10, 11, 12, who waged terror campaigns against the occupying German forces.
So the women and children were considered a military threat?
They could be, sure. And even anyone providing material support, whether it's in the form of money or it could be a Jewish grandma making matzo ball soup for the fighters. It's it's a tricky situation, but they were compelled to occupy these Eastern European countries and Western European countries. And when they went in, they found there's a partisan terrorist warfare organized against them by communists and by large elements of the Jewish population. So it was deemed the best thing we could do is just to remove this dangerous internment. And then after the war, set them up with a nice homeland in Madagascar. It's called the Madagascar Plan. That was the so-called final solution, a homeland in Madagascar. Now, but that's nothing compared to this because they're nice structures. I mean, considering the wartime. I mean, you had brick buildings, beds, latrines, ample food, activities for the children, orchestras, swimming pools, soccer leagues.
Right.
But this here is just brutal.
Yeah, got it.
And it's very little known fact of history. The concentration camps of, these are more like holding pens.
Yeah, it does. It reminds me a lot of Eisenhower's post-war concentration, the open air concentration. Yeah. What was it? 2 million people died in those?
Well, James Backey estimates 1 to 1.5. And if you look at the pictures, it's very believable because it's like, as far as the eye can see, packed in like sardines.
Yeah. And these are mostly German prisoners of war, correct?
All German prisoners of war, some civilians too, who might have been like politically affiliated. And later on, you got testimonies from American guards saying, we were ordered. Anybody comes near the gate trying to give food, like local Germans, to shoot in the air as a warning. They were taking the bodies out by the truckload, insufficient food, and total exposure in a climate that, even in the summer, it gets chilly at night,
What country were those? Were those in Germany?
They were held in the Rhine Meadows concentration camps. So that would be in Germany. In Western Germany.
Got it. Yeah.
So, the British concentration camps weren't as bad as that, but they're bad. Anytime you put people on top of each other, open air like this, even though it's a temperate climate, these are soldiers, but they had separate camps, and there were women and children in them with little makeshift tents. Yep. So,
yeah, pretty brutal conditions.
no, it's a long history of abuse meted out to the Boers. So what do we got in the next image here? Okay, point number 6. 1961, South Africa quits the weakened British Empire and again becomes a sovereign republic, the Republic of South Africa. So in that period, that 15, 20-year period following World War II, Churchill had bankrupted Britain. Okay, they're bankrupted. They're in debt. They owe the U.S. so much money. The empire started disintegrating worldwide. They lost India. They lost Singapore, everything. And South Africa was no different. So now it is the Afrikaners rule South Africa once again. Independent, conservative, religious, nationalist. This nation quickly became the target of the Rothschild cabal and its Marxist minions. So you see what happened now. The British lost it. And who's going to reclaim it? Who wants to reclaim it? The cabal.
The cabal, of course.
Right. So that's what I mean. How the cabal got in bed with the British. The British didn't see them coming, and eventually the British were put out of business.
So from the period of like the early 60s up until, it sounds to me like they had kind of I don't know if I'd call it a golden age, but certainly they had at least a couple of decades where things were going pretty well there, right? Where they regained their independence was it like the 90s when it really started to go in the direction?
60s, 70s, 80s, boom years. I mean, it was like a tourist destination. Everybody wanted to go to Sun City and South
Africa.
A golden
age. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And again, just for like progress and standard of living, the equal of any Northern European country. Okay. And during that time, they poured a shitload of money into educating the Black population and uplifting them. That's a fact. Okay. They put a lot of money, and it cannot be denied that in spite of the apartheid system, which I'm going to get into, Blacks in South Africa had the highest standard of living on the whole continent. There's no denying that. Now, you're going to target a country, you always need a phony pretext. Right? Cabal is not going to say, well, we don't want any white people around, and we want their diamonds, we want their control. No, they have to come up with a pretext. And the pretext was that South Africa's racial segregation, which preserved and protected the white minority, the descendants of the people who built the country, from the Black majority, who benefited greatly from all that the Boers created and maintained. So that's what the apartheid system was. It wasn't, we're going to expel all Blacks. No, but we're going to be separate, apart. Because, if you don't have that, that means that what are you going to have? You're going to have the Blacks are going to elect your rulers. And you built the country. Just because you're the minority now, you have to give it away. So that is the thinking behind apartheid. And
it's the opposite of the melting pot ideology we talked about. They knew that that would destroy their culture the minute they.
That's right.
They integrate. Yeah. So even though go ahead.
I was going to say, ideal utopian world. Okay, everybody gets along. We build a great country together, white, black. But the reality is, if you don't have political segregation, these people are going to be overwhelmed. And this is exactly what happened. Now you end up with the farm murders. That's the reality of it. And that's why apartheid was in place, to prevent something like that. It's our country. We built it.
And I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing that the Black majority didn't really adopt this subversive ideology until it was stoked up by the cabal. Like, in other words, they were all happy there. Everybody was getting along, for they had their apartheid system, but the Black majority was benefiting. The white majority was able to preserve their culture. And then, of course, the cabal has to come in and stir the pot.
That's right. That's right. Both from the outside and with their internal troublemakers that they recruit. Okay. Hey, why should the white man run everything? That sort of stuff. They'd have left the country alone, everybody would have been happy and prosperous. And indeed, there's a substantial number of blacks today who openly say we should go back to apartheid in South Africa.
Mm-hmm. It's like the red ants and the black ants together.
Yeah.
You know, that whole metaphor that everyone's getting along just fine until somebody comes along and shakes it.
And it's so easy. And you know, this is what the cabal does, whether it's a religious difference or difference in economic classes.
That's what communism
is. Racial is the easiest one because, you know, it's like your skin color is your uniform. It's us versus them. That's the easiest one to stir up shit.
Yep.
And that's what they did.
But it was the same. It was the same model as the communism initiative. Really, it was just based on economics. That was the only difference.
Yeah. Well, the old communist subversive movements were based on class.
Yeah.
You gotta hate that guy because he's got a better job than you, or he's got more money than you. You see.
Yep.
But when you base it on race like this, it's really becomes all the more visceral. Yep. And this is what they stoked year after year, decade after decade. This sort of hatred, and it was coming from two ends. You had your internal subversives, the South African Communist Party, for example, and your Nelson Mandelas.
What do you know? It's always the usual suspects, right?
Okay.
Yep.
But then from the outside, all of these globalist-owned governments, they started with the sanctions, the so-called international community.
Right.
And that really got going in this country with Jimmy Carter. He began that effort in this country and Europe. And then everything was boycott South Africa. And I remember when I was in college, that was the big thing. Divestiture. You know, I think Rutgers in their funds, some of their investments would indirectly be in South Africa. Divested. And it was just such intense pressure and hatred against South Africa building up year after year. And then you had the sanctions. And then you get your internal globalist traders saying, yeah, let's have an election for everybody. And the argument of South Africa's was, the existing South African government is, we have an election, that's it, that's over. The African National Government, African National Congress, which is communist, will take over. And that's it. That's it for white people. That's it for this country. But nobody wanted to hear that. And finally, they caved into the pressure. And Nelson Mandela, who spent many years in prison, not because he was opposed to apartheid. No, he was a violent terrorist. The ANC was a murderous terrorist organization. And most of their victims were other blacks who were not communist. They got it the worst. Okay?
So it was a terror campaign to get them to all get on board with this ideology.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, this thug is released from prison, and there's an election, and South Africa falls in 1994 to the African National Congress. One-party rule ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, with the whites, it's interesting. They've got enough sense to know, you know, we kind of need the elite whites, right? So the top tier whites, mainly of British and Jewish descent, life's not too bad for them. They live in gated communities. They got their money, right? The middle class, civil servants, they all lost their jobs if you worked in the government. A lot of them live now. They live in camps, squatter camps. 10% of the white population of South Africa lives in squatter camps. So they got screwed. And then, of course, the farmers, the violence against the farmers. So when you hear these stories about, one moment, let me just turn this fan down here. Okay. When you hear these stories, and this is how the libtards always apologize for South Africa, they'll say, look at these whites and blacks living together, and there's a lot of whites. They're so happy with the new South Africa. That's a certain class of whites who got money, who got guards, who live in gated communities. And the ANC doesn't mess with them because they know they kind of need them too to run the businesses. Mm-hmm. But if you're middle class or poor in South Africa, it's been a disaster. And for poor blacks, probably they're the ones most victimized by this shitty African National Congress government. And indeed, a lot of them, and you'll see these on the internet saying, I saw one interview, was some British journalist is interviewing a black South African man on the street. And the guy's saying things were so much better under apartheid. And the British guy, white guy's telling the black guy, "Oh, surely you don't mean that. Oh, you can't possibly mean that." It's like, no, we had work. We
actually had a standard of living that was better than this.
Yeah.
That's the way it
So
always.
that's the sad story of South Africa and the Boers, mainly the Boers.
The real history, folks.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting. All right, so let's go to the next panel here.
Oh, there he is, Nelson Mandela. Here's an image that the mainstream media didn't show you during the peak of Mandela mania in the early 1990s. He came here, got a ticker tape parade. It was insane.
Yeah, he's a freedom fighter, don't you know?
Yeah. Mandela. Oh, white libtards crying at the sight of him.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife makes him look moderate by comparison. Total lunatic psycho, Winnie Mandela. They say she personally beat up and participated in the murder of a 13-year-old black boy. Because, again, there were a lot of blacks who didn't like the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
They were anti-communist, and they got it the worst. And that gentleman there on the edge, the white guy, that's Joe Slovo, a Lithuanian-born head of the South African Communist Party. Jewish, by the way. Just saying. Mm-hmm. And there you are giving the communist salute. So that's the real Mandela right there. Mm-hmm. That was hidden from Western normies when they were glorifying him. There it is, New York City. I mean, this was like bigger than the World War II parade, right? VE Day or whatever. Nelson Mandela ticker tape parade.
This was in the mid-90s?
1990. Let me see. Yeah, the 90, 91. He's really? Not president yet.
Oh, okay. He hadn't been.
He's been released from the joint.
Gotcha.
This is his victory tour. And by the way, he was in prison. He could have been released. All he had to do was renounce violence and terrorism. He wouldn't do it. And he had a very cushy existence in prison. They say they used to even send chicks in there for him. So, I mean,
yeah.
But that's it. Upon his release, this is the spectacle that was unleashed on the world.
Yep.
And this is my early awakening, by the way.
That's right.
Because I'm seeing this. Because I remember. Because, like I said, when I was in college at Rutgers, this was the big deal. Divest in South Africa, free Nelson Mandela. But I learned there. I learned then. I said, "Well, this guy's a terrorist." So I understood who he was and what he represented. So.
And then you saw
Then
Bush.
I saw this. This was quite a shock to many conservatives.
Yeah.
But I took it a step further. I started asking, why are so many so-called Republicans fawning over this guy as well? Something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
This began to shatter the illusion of, R good, D bad.
Rhino.
But I don't know if you remember this. You'd be.
I was like middle school.
10 years old. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This was intense.
I remember hearing about Nelson Mandela, and you know, my parents, of course, I love them to death, but they're about as asleep as libtarded as you could possibly imagine. God. And at this point, they're in their mid 80s, so they're not changing. But I gave up on that. But yeah, I remember as a kid. I mean, I was totally indoctrinated with all this. This liberal propaganda. And they're good people. They mean well, but they're just.
Well, of course, because the way they understand it is those big bad Boers. They were mean. They were mean and oppressive towards the blacks. And Mandela just wanted freedom, and they put him in prison for 20 years. Mm-hmm. But I just remember watching this. And they're interviewing people on the street, women crying. Oh, I got to see him. Insane.
It just goes to show you the liberal, the cabal. I shouldn't even say liberal because it's a false paradigm, but the cabal propaganda machine once again.
They took a piece of shit communist terrorist like Nelson Mandela, and this is what they turned them into.
They put him on Time magazine cover, and the rest is history.
Oh,
right?
God. That was bad.
Yep. Same formula. We go over it just about every week with all these different characters.
Yeah.
Now, we always joke about Time Magazine for people who are new listeners because like that's like the number one tell. If somebody's on the cover of Time Magazine, you know.
Yeah. And there were some black leaders in South Africa. It was the head of the Zulus. There was a few of them. And you could even read it back then in certain conservative public. They were warning, this guy is a murderer. His wife is a murderer. They've killed Winnie Mandela. His wife would incite her thugs to necklace their opponents. Necklacing is when you tie someone up, their hands, and then they would tie place a car tire over your head, douse it with gasoline, and you just burn in the rubber. This is what the Mandelas were all about. They tried to warn people, but nobody would listen to them. They didn't get any airtime. The only reason I know about it is because this is the early years. I started to dabble in the John Birch Society. I saw some very compelling videos and stuff like that. One of the guys was actually interviewed on C-SPAN saying back then, black guy, Zulu, saying what vile, vicious murderers and gangsters the Mandelas are. And so
this was a historical moment for Mike King. This is Mike King's awakening, folks.
Well, yep. I'm actually going to get to that in the next panel.
All right.
This is what really pushed me over the edge and made me start pulling on the string, which I've been pulling for 30 years. There it is. George Herbert Walker Bush, my first vote for president, because he had an R after his name. And Mr. Reagan said he's a good guy. Vote for him. It's okay. We're in good hands.
Well, my first vote was for his spawn of Satan's son.
His son. There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we all go through it.
Yep.
We all go through it. The important thing is when you see something contradictory is not to lock into your erroneous belief system, but to begin to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have someone who I know is a communist, degenerate, terrorist murderer. And here you have someone with an R after his name, the president, my first vote, just a couple years earlier, fawning all over him. And it was at this moment in time, I had a brochure sitting on my desk somewhere, someone I put on my windshield. It's just amazing how the ripples can go sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who this person was or where are they, but they were evidently putting brochures out on. This is pre-internet days.
That was a God moment, Mike.
It sure was.
The God moment.
This is what truthers and patriots have to resort to in those days. Brochures put on windshield, but it was John Birch Society talking about one world government, no difference between Republicans, Democrats, Council on Foreign Relations, this and that. These people are nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But I put it aside and I saw this. I said, maybe I better look into this. And I ordered a book called The Council on Foreign Relations, The Shadows of Power, about the Council on Foreign Relations by James Perloff. And that was my first initial steps, first few milligrams of red pill. So I guess I owe a debt of gratitude to Mr. Mandela and Mr. Bush in some way.
Well, in a sense you do, because this was this is a textbook example of inducing cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, long before the White Hats, long before the Q operation. But, you dug a little bit on Mandela and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, how is he standing next to the guy that I voted for president who supposedly represents everything that this guy, the opposite of everything this guy stands for. So there's the cognitive dissonance. The matrix starts to break down. You dig for more information and away you go. You're on your journey.
Yep.
We all have that story, just a different version of it.
Everybody has a moment, where you start that triggers something.
Yep.
But that's good because that's not a true normie. It just means somebody who's been kept in the dark.
Right.
A true normie is somebody who would look at that and say, oh, so,
They wait for the media explanation and then they just believe it.
Yeah. But no, this just it's just baffled the hell out of me. This can't be. How can this be? How is this communist terrorist murderer being dignified, glorified, promoted by a guy with an R after his name? So
turned out to be one of the worst of the rhinos.
Yeah, bad news. Former director of the CIA.
Yep. All right. I think
so. Is that it?
I think. We had one more here. Yep.
The closing line. Today, the middle and lower class whites and farmers suffer on the ANC. Has the world turned a blind eye? But thanks to Q and the Trump operation, the world is now watching. And we seem to close with this theme every week, don't we?
Yep.
how the world has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you really have to I've lived through some of this stuff or studied it to truly appreciate, in spite of the tedious nature of this. Okay.
It's tedious. There's no question.
It is, but this is just, once again, historic, unprecedented, a U.S. president sticking up for the Boers who've been getting it up the butthole for a couple centuries.
Yep. Here we are. Wow. Well, that was another great presentation, Mike. So we wanted to keep this under, I could always ask Mike more questions, under 2 hours, because you got an important trip coming up, right?
Yes, I do. Going to Mar-a-Lago.
I know. I have to say, I was invited, and unfortunately,
aren't you jealous? I know your story.
I'm very, very jealous, Mike. I wish I did not have a full-time job and I could just get on a plane and go to Mar-a-Lago. But yeah, I am jealous. I am, but I'm hoping you guys have a blast. So it was
Dave no sick days, vacation day.
Yeah, none of that.
Sure, it was relatively short notice.
Yeah.
But
so you're going to be down there with Dave, and who else is going? Rambo,
I think Gunnels.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That'll be a nice time. So you heading out tomorrow?
I'm heading out Friday afternoon, God willing.
Oh, Friday. Okay. Yeah, you got a few days.
Yeah. Wednesday afternoon. I'm sorry, Wednesday afternoon. Okay. Wednesday. Yeah, the event is Thursday, and invited by someone who's not only a follower of yours. It turns out this gentleman stumbled across my book, The Bad War, on Amazon.
Oh yeah,
which is like what was killed, was removed from Amazon like 8 years ago.
Yeah, you always talk about it was the ADL that took it off. How did you find? I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Did you just kind of conclude that on your own, or did you ever get?
Well, they were the ones who initiated the first wave of censorship. That's a fact. They used to write letters, and then Amazon finally caved in. Mm-hmm. So they were the ones giving the lists, and then what happened is David Duke. I was not on the initial banning list. I thought I was, but now I look at the dates. But then David Duke got in touch with me through Jeff Rentz. He wanted to interview me. I did a podcast interview with David Duke.
Oh, you did?
On The Bad War, yeah.
Do you have a copy of that?
A horrible David Duke. I'm actually posting it to Rumble. It should be on probably tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. It's
an old interview.
Yeah.
And I was excited about that. Then just 2 days later, evidently we know the ADL monitors everything David Duke says or writes.
Oh yeah.
So I'm on his show about World War II, and so that's what happened. I know it was them.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of distracted you there. So the gentleman who invited you to Mar-a-Lago, he came across your book. You were saying
he came across my book prior to the ban, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know he'd been following me all along. But he also had discovered you and independently of one another. So
cool. Yeah. I really wish I could go, man. I really do.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah.
But Dave said that hopefully there'll be another opportunity in the future. I might have been able to swing it if I had a little bit more notice, but
yeah.
Given how crazy my life is now, and as you know, I've got 2 kids too, which is
it's tough. Yeah,
not easy. But I hope you guys have an amazing time. I want to see a bunch of photos. I think you're gonna get to meet Trump. That would be awesome. or
I don't know. Is he down there?
I don't know.
Or is he in Cheyenne Mountain? Maybe I'll meet the 5'11" Trump.
I was gonna say, it'd be interesting. I think we'll have some interesting stuff to talk about next Monday.
Yeah.
That trip.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
right.
This has been a great show. Hopefully you folks enjoyed it. Once again, the great Mike King. Make sure you check out his website, follow him on Rumble and on X, pick up his books, spread this information around, do everything you can to support him and to support me as well. You can also check out the links in the description. And I will catch up with you folks on Thursday. I'm actually going to be on News Treason. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have scheduled for the week. So I'll be back with you guys soon. Once again, Mike, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Godspeed, everybody. We will see you next Monday.